Hello? Okay, good evening, everyone. We'll call this Planning Commission to order. Could we let the record reflect that 4 commissioners are present with Commissioner Ryan absent? And with that, we'd start with the Pledge of Allegiance, if you'd join me. Okay, next is oral communications. This is an opportunity for the public to address the commission on items that are not on the agenda tonight. Speakers will be given 3 minutes. And are there any speaker slips?
Yep, we have one, and that's Chris Schoeneck.
Okay.
I'm here representing the Sage Canyon Apartments project again. And since our last meeting that we had, it was nice to have a little break last week. We were able to talk with staff. It saddens me to let you know that staff are continuing to push for the El Camino Real road improvements, even though we've clearly stated that these improvements preclude us from building much needed affordable housing. In that meeting, we also asked staff to commit to a date certain for us to have the project heard in front of you. Staff has come back and said that they are going to attempt to go for the December 4th Planning Commission date. I urge you to push staff to commit to that date so that notices can be sent out to the public and so that everyone can have time to prepare and attend the meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next is changes to the agenda. Are there any changes to tonight's agenda?
I need to remove item 6C from the consent calendar.
So, B for the continuance?
No.
6C, the Tamaki Bar.
Oh, that's from the consent calendar.
Correct.
Okay.
You're going to pull it?
I need to pull it.
Yeah.
Are you pulling it or are you recusing yourself from it? Or am I
I'm
jumping
going to
the
pull
gun?
it from the calendar so that I
Okay.
can vote on the consent calendar.
I see.
Is there other items, if that's appropriate?
Sure.
But
I don't-
I'm happy to go the other way, Steve, if that's your preference.
No,
It's up to you.
it doesn't make a difference to me. I think he could vote on the consent calendar even if he was not voting on that one particular item.
You can, we'll just make a record of it. The reason I thought maybe it was 6B was because 6B is a continuance. Deanna and I were talking about this before. And technically, your bylaws say that continuances should be done also under changes on the agenda, but that's at your discretion.
Okay. I think it's been noticed this way, right? So I'm comfortable with it on the consent calendar.
That's
I
fine.
was going to pull it.
You're going to pull it anyway, so
Yes.
let's pull this item from the consent calendar. Can I get a motion to approve the remaining items on the consent calendar?
I motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, can we vote on the consent calendar minus item 6C? Okay, that passes 4-0. And with that, we will move to discuss item 6C. And Brent, you want to recuse yourself from this?
I do need to recuse myself due to my location,
Yes.
related to the project.
Okay, thank you. Okay, with that, we will move to, Bob, you polled it. Would you like to hear the full staff report?
I
Or
would.
did you have a specific question?
No,
Okay,
I
okay.
like to hear the staff report.
All right, if we could, Takuma Eastland, give us a staff report.
Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. Takuma Eastland, Associate Planner. The item before you is multi-008257-2025, the Tamaki Bar Service Area Conversion Project. The subject property, outlined in yellow, is located at 575 South Coast Highway 101 within the Downtown Encinitas Specific Plan and the old Encinitas community. The project site is zoned Downtown Encinitas Commercial Mixed 1. The applicant requests a minor use permit modification and associated coastal development permit to authorize an interior remodel and conversion of the rear 1,241 square foot portion of the existing restaurant to an added bar, a bar support area, and varied seating. No operational changes, including hours of operation, are proposed to change as part of this application. Here are photos of what the subject area looks like now. It's currently used as a storage and administrative area for the employees. Here's the floor plan of the project. On the left is the whole restaurant, showing the front area not within the scope of this project. And then on the right is the proposed bar area with varied seating arrangements. The applicant held a citizens participation program meeting on October 1st, 2025. No members of the public attended and no concerns were raised. Notice of this public hearing was mailed on October 23rd to all property owners and occupants within 500 feet of the project site and to anyone who requested such notice in writing. No comments or concerns were expressed. The proposed project is consistent with the objectives and policies of the general plan, as well as the city's local coastal program, and staff is able to make the findings for approval of the minor use permit modification and coastal development permit. With that in mind, staff recommends that the Planning Commission adopt the draft resolution of approval and approve the project. And this concludes staff's presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Takuma. We have a question for you.
Yeah, just one question. Right now, with the beer and wine license, correct? Minors are allowed to enter. Would that be the same with distilled spirits added?
So the restaurant already has a Type 47 ABC license. They upgraded that in March of this year. They went from a Type 41, which is beer and wine, to a Type 47, which is beer, wine, and distilled spirits.
Thank you.
No.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Just a couple clarifications. Is there a calculation at all about total bar area to food area? I mean, they're increasing the square footage of their service area, and is that consistent with their original permit, or by expanding the other 1,200 square feet, does it throw any ratios that you look off? And I don't know if there's a ratio that you guys look at from a calculation standpoint in terms of total area of the restaurant. Is it within this current zoning for them to do 100%?
Yeah, there's no square footage limitation as it relates to alcohol service area.
Okay. And they upgraded from the 41 to the 47, right? So they've gone from, originally the Type 41 was in April of 22, and then in March of 25, they upgraded. I think there was something else in the staff report that there haven't been any issues with either noise, or there haven't been any issues with the police or the sheriffs or anything like that. There hasn't been anything that would cause concerns as they went from a 41 to a 47 to today?
Correct. As part of the project, the case files are reviewed by code enforcement as well as the sheriff, and neither expressed any concerns.
And this doesn't change the parking requirement because they're now using, the whole site. It has enough parking under the zoning for their parking, I'm assuming, in the back or whatever. They don't have any parking requirements, and they're not changing any ratios that way.
There's no parking change because the area is existing.
But the area is existing, but the use is changing. The use is getting bigger. So there's no add-ons for parking or anything like that?
In this case, no.
Okay. That was it. Thanks.
Okay. Is the applicant here, and would they like to address the commission?
Commissioners, good evening. I am with the architecture firm. We have no comments unless you have further comments yourselves.
Okay. Do you have any questions of the applicant, you guys? Okay. Thank you for being here.
Thank you all.
With that, I will close the public comment portion and open it up to commissioner deliberation.
I don't really have much. I just wanted to make sure that the additional use was allowed under the code and that somehow the changes didn't affect any sort of other ratios per other resolution since this has come back a second time. I'm glad they're doing well and looking to expand.
Good. Susan, do you have any comments?
Yeah, I just wanted to know if they still would be allowing minors, and it appears they do.
Okay. Then I'd entertain a motion here.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay.
Second?
All right. Can we call the vote? Okay, that passes 3-0 with Commissioner Ryan absent and Commissioner Whitaker recused. Okay, we'll move on to the next thing, but thank you for being here, and we'll give Commissioner Whitaker a chance to sit down. Okay, moving on to the regular agenda items tonight. Item 8A is the EC duplex addition, case number multi-006049-2003. I'll ask briefly if there's any disclosures or,
No disclosures.
I drove by it yesterday, today, the day before. Pretty much drive that all the time.
yes, okay, and I'll disclose the same, that I'm familiar with the site.
I have been by it.
Okay, thank you. With that, Takuma's got a 2 for tonight. If we could have a staff report, please.
The next item before you is multi-006049-2023, the Equiduplex Addition Project. The project site, outlined in yellow, is addressed as 2588 San Elijo Avenue. The site is located in the R11 zone within the Cardiff by the Sea community and the Special Study, Floodplain, Cultural Natural Resources, Scenic Visual Corridor, and Coastal Appeal Overlay Zones. The project proposes a second-story addition to one of the existing units within a 2-story duplex. To authorize the project, the applicant is requesting a design review permit for the 874 square foot addition to one unit of the existing duplex, including increasing the existing unit's roof height, as well as a coastal development permit, which is required because the project is located within the Coastal Commission's appeal jurisdiction and is proposing an increase in floor area greater than 10% and an increase in height greater than 10% of the existing structure. For background, in 1960, the single-family residence was constructed, and then in 1965, the second unit was added. Then in 2018, the Planning Commission approved resolution number PC 2018-38 to authorize the same addition being proposed as part of this application. This new application is required because the previous approval expired on October 4th, 2020. Here is the site plan showing the hatched area as the proposed addition. This addition will occur entirely within the existing first floor footprint. Here is the floor plan showing where the addition will occur. In the top right corner, the area colored in pink is the proposed addition area, and then the blue is the existing. Here are the north and south elevations. The project complies with all height standards of the R11 zone. And here are the east and west elevations. The project proposes an addition within the 100-foot wetland buffer. Site-specific analyses were performed in 2016 and 2025 that concluded that the project will not have an impact on the environment due to the fact that the addition will occur entirely above the existing first floor footprint, and it proposes no additional encroachment into the buffer. The applicant held a citizens participation program meeting on June 6, 2023. There were 6 attendees who had concerns about access, parking, and noise during construction, and concerns about height, views, and parking post-construction. Notice of this public hearing was mailed on October 24, 2025, to all property owners and occupants within 500 feet of the project site, and to anyone who requested such notice in writing. No comments were received. The project has been determined to be exempt from environmental review pursuant to SECO Guidelines Section 15301E1, which exempts additions to existing structures, provided that the addition will not result in an increase of more than 50% of the floor area of the structures before the addition, or 2,500 square feet, whichever is less. The proposed project is consistent with the objectives and policies of the general plan and the city's local coastal program, and staff is able to make the findings for approval of the design review permit and coastal development permit. With that in mind, staff recommends that the Planning Commission adopt the draft resolution of approval and approve the project. And this concludes staff's presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any clarifying questions of staff? Brent?
Thank you for the report, Takuma. I was curious about the in the report, it indicated there would be a dedicated 5-foot wide easement for a public right-of-way, and I was just hoping to just provide a little bit of clarity, like where that existed and what the purpose of that was.
Let me pull up the site plan real quick. One second. So the dedication and the easement will occur on San Elijo Avenue, closest to where the building frontage is, not on the side where the driveway access would be.
Okay.
Where is, do you have a picture? Sorry.
Sure. Oh, so sorry. There you go. Apologies.
So it's on San Alejo?
Yeah. Yeah, so this is the frontage along San Elijo, and then you can see there's the 5-foot dedication right-of-way. Adjacent to that is the 5-foot dedication for pedestrian easement, and then the start of the building.
I think their trash is out there, so where does that go? Does that go in the
Definitely
easement?
some parking in that area as well.
And there's some tight parking as you come around.
How does an easement like this work with the city? Like, they're requesting the dedication to the city, and they've agreed to that? Is that my understanding?
It is a condition of approval of this project,
So the
as
city's
well as a
requested
condition
it of them?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
It was also a condition of approval of the original project in
And do you
2018.
have any idea what the request was for?
It's typically a standard requirement by engineering for streets that cannot currently accommodate sidewalks, for example.
Right, yeah, like there's no sidewalks along this
Yeah.
particular stretch.
To potentially, eventually build them.
Build it out. Okay, so that does flow into my next concern just about parking, is everything's parking, parking, parking. It does look like there's one carport, and can you confirm that is that the case?
Yeah, so in the rear, there are 2 tandem parking spaces. There's no enclosed parking spaces on site.
So there's 2 parking spaces.
Yes, when the site was originally developed in the 1960s, the assumption is that this was all that was required.
And do you have any idea of the parking that exists along Santa Fe, will that remain? Santa Leo, thank you for the clarification.
So from the city's perspective, that is not parking.
Okay.
However, functionally, it's possible that
It may remain.
people do park there.
Okay. But it will be a dedicated easement.
That's correct.
Okay. So if the city comes along and builds sidewalk in there or builds out the area, the parking will go away, potentially.
From the city's perspective, there is no parking there.
There is no parking there. Okay. And the other question I had to do with landscaping. It seemed like there were some, are going to be providing a few trees, I think 4, if I remember correctly. And I was just curious if we had like locations of those, or if there were mature trees at the location that were identified that were remaining.
So trees were required to be planted to be in compliance with the Encinitas Municipal Code requirements for high-density zones. So for that reason, they are proposing to have 4 total. It may not be super clear where specifically they will be. I do note the architect is here on site, if he happens to have any insight on that.
And that concludes my questions.
Just to piggyback, is the parking considered legal non-conforming, or is it only required to have 2 now?
It's legal non-conforming.
Thank you. Also on the site plan, up by the easement, there seems to be maybe a wall or a curb drawn just behind the new property line. Could you tell me what those parallel lines are with the shading?
Yeah, so there's a retaining wall and what appears to be a walkway in between the wall and the building wall because of the slope.
So that easement, there's a wall on top of the easement currently that would, okay. Okay, thank you. Bob, do you have any questions?
Yeah, so one of your bullets in the presentation was 874 square feet addition was less than 50% of the structure. Can you define structure for me? Is it the existing building, because it's a duplex, is it above the existing unit, or is the 873 square feet measured against the entire square footage of both units?
It would be for both units.
For both units, okay. Even though they're, and does that only become a structure when it's a separate parcel, or when does it become 2 structures? Does there have to be a gap in the wall? From a code standpoint, going forward, it's more of an education, so that's why it's a clarification. When does it become 873 upon the structure that it's on versus the whole? Because you clearly made it a definition that it's over the whole.
Right, so in this case, that CDP requirement refers to the structure, I believe. In our EMC, we do dictate that building separation, so to sort of be considered detached, a building has to be 6 feet apart.
Okay.
So that may be a consideration in when we would consider them different structures.
Okay.
But in this case, they are
A single structure, so the 873 is less than 50% of the structure.
The entire structure.
Okay. In your presentation, there's there's almost 100 and plus pages of 2 different environmental reports. And yet during your presentation, there was no reference at all to the DUDEC report in 2018 and then the updated one. So I was just wondering, so you say no environmental impact, but there was some changes. They did note some changes between the 2 reports.
There may have been some changes in how each consultant performed their analyses. But the conclusion from both was that due to the addition not encroaching any further into the wetland buffer and the addition itself fully occurring within the building footprint, that there were essentially no environmental considerations.
Is there a change of square footage of the roof area from existing to the addition? Thinking that there might be additional runoffs, was there a calculation that I may have missed? Or my concern is because they're right on the lagoon, and I'd like you to go through from a clarification standpoint, or maybe the architect can, talking about how the water retention is. There's a new walkway that's going to be hardscape and not permeable. So since you're right on the lagoon and there's 4 different agencies that cover that, you said Army Corps of Engineers, California Department of Fish and Wildlife, California Coastal Commission, and I'm missing one, all have some sort of jurisdiction over the water that runs off this project into the lagoon. So how do we change the roof area? And if we don't change the roof area and it's the same size, are there things in our code that require the property to retain under, even though it's a conforming lot, a legal non-conforming lot, what are our codes as it relates to stormwater runoff going into the lagoon, even though it's only an 874 square foot project?
So to answer some of your questions,
A lot there, sorry to unpack.
the roof design certainly will change as a result of this project. Engineering did review this project, and the project, as currently proposed, site drainage will actually improve. And that fact was also noted in at least one of the environmental reviews.
The old one from 2018 or the new one? And I guess that goes to the site, the plans really haven't changed from the original 2018 permit, right? It's the same drawings, just updated?
Essentially, yes.
Essentially, yes, okay. So the new application has to consider the runoff requirements, the stormwater requirements, landscape and plants as Commissioner Whitaker talked about. Those are all going to be applied under this permit, correct? The new codes.
That's correct. The project has to conform to our current requirements.
Okay. You talked about the dedication. This is the first one that's kind of come through on the scenic view corridor overlay zone. So can you just kind of walk me through how this property is treated under the SVCOZ? Because this is the first time it's kind of come up for me.
Yeah, so for properties that are in proximity of view corridors, such as the 5 freeway, the different lagoons, there are visual impacts that are taken into consideration. In this case, because of the slope of the property, the fact that it meets our height standards for the R11 zone for lots that have greater than a 10% average lot slope, and the siting of the addition itself, it was determined that there would be no major visual impacts to the lagoon itself.
Okay. So it was because it's in this area, it was looked at by the overlay zone. I think I'm on page 8 of the staff report. That's kind of where I took it from. And on page, I'll just try to reference the page reference so everybody can follow along. Now I'm on page 9 of the staff report. Have you received any comments, given that's been out there for so long, from Coastal Commission? I mean, do they go to Coastal Commission after this position, or have they gone to Coastal Commission and then come back and this is conforming to Coastal?
So
Or is that applicable here?
Because this project is in the Coastal Commission's appeal jurisdiction, after assuming approval today, and that the project passes the 10-day appeal period in the city, after that, we will send what's called a notice of final action to the Coastal Commission, informing them of our decision. And then because it's in that appeal jurisdiction, they have the ability to appeal if they so choose.
Okay, thank you. And I guess the architect can say if he's talked to Coastal. The CPP was held in 2023. Notices were sent out, so there hasn't been another CPP in the last 2 years, even though the project hasn't changed, but there hasn't been a CPP in the last 2 years.
That's correct.
Okay. Now I'm down on, sorry, just trying to make sure I can do this correctly. I'm scrolling down to page 90 of the PDF. And my question is on methods and survey limitations. I guess, do we need to consider a permeable walkway to avoid water running off into the lagoon? Bless you. This is on 3.2.1, vegetation, communities, and land cover types. Basically, people were saying that what you've said is that the existing water capture system is enough to not require or consider a permeable, because I think they're building a new walkway, is that correct? 5 foot wide to get down to the stairs that are going to go up to the unit?
I believe that's the case, yes.
Any reason why we wouldn't consider making that walkway a permeable space? Or engineering? I mean, I know you're not engineering, but it seems like we're right on the lagoon, and you would want to try to capture as much water on site as possible. So wouldn't a permeable walkway be something that we would have considered to capture water sinking into the ground? I guess it'd sink into the ground and then eventually seep into the lagoon, but versus running off directly. You're at the bottom of the hill, water's sheeting down off of the building, the street above you into this. There's no way that this site can capture all the water that's flowing down the hill, down San Alejo. And we only focus on the water that's being captured on this site, and is a permeable walkway something that engineering considered?
So you are correct that these aren't planning considerations. However, planning staff can confirm that this project was reviewed by engineering, where it was determined that drainage would improve as a result of this project. And that was also mentioned in at least one of the environmental reviews.
Okay. Page 93 of 140. Does the applicant need to remove non-native species? I think there was a reference to ice plant being on the hillside. And I was wondering if part of this is to remove some of the ice plant or any other non-native plants going down the slope, and that be covered under this permit, or is that covered by one of the other jurisdictions?
So the removal of any non-native plants were not included as a condition of approval of this project.
Is that something that we normally do? And
With projects, when they have design review that include landscape plans, to a obtain enough points to comply. There may be requirements for having a certain number of native species. But as far as staff's aware, there's no requirement for removing existing invasive species.
Would that come from other jurisdictions? Would, like, for instance, Fish and Wildlife or somebody else, could they opine based on these multiple jurisdictions to have something like that removed? This is a macro question. It may not be in our code to remove, but if it's requested by one of the other agencies, does the applicant have to comply?
Planning staff for the city of Encinitas would not really know of the requirements of other jurisdictions. It is worth mentioning that as part of the review of this project, staff did have a batching meeting with Fish and Wildlife and U.S. Fish and Wildlife as well as California, and they expressed no concerns with the project.
Okay, I was looking at page 93 of 140. The proposed additions and remodeling of the existing two-story duplex are not anticipated to add any new impervious surfaces to the property or increase stormwater flows, but yet they're building a 5-foot wide walkway. So that's part of the Busby Biological Services report. So they are building impervious, unless I'm mistaken that they're not building an impervious walkway. So either I'm wrong or they're wrong. This is the last paragraph on page 93 of 140.
So it is fair to mention that although a pervious walkway may be proposed, this was a report that was not done by city staff.
But you read it. I'm saying engineering read it. Somebody read this that says there's not adding an impervious walkway, yet the drawings specifically say they are. So if this wasn't next to the lagoon, with water running into the lagoon, I would be, if it was on some street in Liebenhain or something like that, I probably wouldn't be as concerned, but it's right next to the lagoon.
So staff does want to emphasize that as a result of this project, there will be less runoff than there currently is.
Okay, agreed. So is the statement incorrect from Busby, and is staff going to recognize that? Or is...
It's certainly possible that not all language in the consultant's report is correct.
Okay. But that's not going to change engineering's review of the site, in your opinion?
That's correct.
Okay.
The bio reports were reviewed for their impact to the wetlands itself, while engineering reviewed the on-site drainage.
Okay. Thank you. That's all.
Susan, do you have any questions? Okay. Thank you, Takuma. With that, I think the applicant is here. Would you like to address the commission?
Good evening. I'm Bart Smith with DZM Partners. This is my second go-around on this project. Been around too long. I don't really have a presentation. I think Takuma did a great job. If you have any questions for me, I can answer those.
Maybe you could help clarify this discussion around added walkways. Currently, is there a walkway on the north and south side of this building?
Yes, there is, and they're both impervious.
Yes.
I think maybe if it says something about a new walkway, it's just that the city, based on the staff, based on their requirements and desires to kind of change our walkways, we might have small areas that are new, but overall, it's already got impervious walkways there. We're not creating any new walkways. And it would be hard for our soils report person, our engineer, to advocate for a pervious walkway right next to the footings, because it's not really a good idea typically. But yeah, right now it's pretty much surrounded by concrete, this building is.
Yeah.
So.
there was some discussion about dedications, easements. Are the easements or dedications of any concern to you?
No, the dedication is about 5 feet, and that's to widen San Elijo, and the other easement is a pedestrian easement. We don't, we want to get the project approved, so we're agreeing to it. I don't think the city, but I cross my fingers, is ever going to put a sidewalk there, but it would have some impact on the property. Not so much on the building, but it would probably put the sidewalk right up against the house.
Right.
So, yeah.
Okay. Are there any other questions of the applicant?
No, maybe I just misunderstood the text of the staff report talking about a new walkway, and that was why I was zeroing in on the new walkway.
Might have been a replacement or a.
Yeah, but so maybe it was just the verbiage.
I think the way the walkway is constructed now is a combination of impervious concrete and impervious wood, and they want it to be something that's all concrete, so it meets the current standards, not how it was built. So, all right.
I was just thinking, if you were putting a new walkway in, then like why wouldn't the engineering department have considered permeable product versus runoff? That's all. But if it's not a new one.
The current roof has no gutters or downspouts or anything like that, so we're putting all that in, gutters, downspouts. There was a precise grading plan prepared by a civil engineer for the project. So like Takuma says, it's going to vastly improve the drainage on the site.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you.
thanks.
Thank you, Bart. Okay. Are there any public comments?
There are none.
I have a couple of questions, mainly for clarification. Some of them are for you. One is there was a lot of talk about the 5-foot easement. I just want to be clear, that's along San Aleo? Is that correct?
We do not have a speaker slip, sir.
Pardon?
For speaking on this item, we don't have a speaker slip. I believe
I didn't know there needed to be one. Is there one? Do I need to fill out something?
You can fill it out after your 3
Yeah,
minutes.
if you would
My
fill
name
it
is
out after-
Daniel Wolbert. I live right across from the project that's being discussed. I will fill one out afterwards. I didn't, right. So the first question was, continually talked about 5-foot easement. You're talking about along San Aleo, is that correct? Okay, and so that's just to widen the... Pardon? Okay. And that's just to widen the access for walking around it and stuff, is that right?
That's correct.
Yes, please address your questions and comments to the commission.
Okay. Although he might be, and is that right?
Sir, you're
The
gonna-
easement, yes.
Sir, you get 3 minutes to speak. It would be better for you just to ask your questions of us and then we will respond to your questions, but you're kind of burning your own time if we're going to start a dialogue right here, okay? So why don't you go through your list of concerns, and then we will try to address those concerns after your time has expired.
Okay, let me get to my main concern. I assume this is my time. My main concern is how is the construction going to be done? Is it going to be done with vehicles along San Aleo, or is it going to be along the private driveway where they do not have an easement for construction vehicles? So maybe that's a concern for you guys. I don't know how you're going to do this construction unless you allow construction vehicles on San Aleo. So, okay, that's the question. Maybe that's a concern, and maybe, I don't know if that affects the end result of the thing or not, but, okay.
Okay. Just to respond to that then, I don't think we don't know what the easement says, whether they allow construction trucks or not. It's not likely that an easement would exclude a truck from accessing that site.
It does. The easement is for ingress and egress, and that's it. Okay, thank you.
So we should just look at we should probably ask the applicant how he plans to stage. Can we ask the applicant how he plans to stage the construction?
That's fine.
Bart, would you like to respond to that?
I've met Daniel before years ago. We did another project in this same area. And the construction is a bit of a beast. The plan is by the owners is to mostly park on Manchester, which is only couple 100 feet from this property. And there is public parking along that street as it goes up the hill. Delivery-wise, they'll try to do most of the deliveries of materials along San Elijo. We'll try not to, there's probably room for one construction truck on the property, but I know Daniel's concerned because it's a pretty narrow private lane that gets down to 3 or 4 houses. So, I mean, I guess if you could do like a traffic control plan, make that a requirement of the project or something like that, that's up to you guys, so.
Okay, and I believe that's already a condition of approval, as I thought I saw traffic control if they were going to do anything disrupt,
Is that in the resolution?
as I believe it is.
Maybe we could pull that up just to
Maybe, yeah.
share that.
Okay. Okay, thanks for your answer. Okay, with that, I'm going to close the public comment portion of this hearing and open it up to commissioner deliberation.
Some of my concerns about the dedicated easement, I think were adequately addressed as the city considers it not parking. And that sort of ends where that is. And I'm sure it's something they hope to utilize for parking in the future, considering there's only 2 parking spots and they're adding more square footage. So, yeah, in general, I think the runoff was adequately looked at, and certainly I feel confident in that review. So I'm ready to move forward.
Yeah, the runoff question was answered, that it's improved, and clearly I would think that the agencies nearby, I'm sure Coastal will take a look at the runoff issue, but if I have to trust engineering that it's actually improving versus running straight off. Regarding the easement, it's really tight there. They're going to park on it until we build a sidewalk, but there's plenty of places, I believe, in the city where people are parking on a right of way, down Clark and other places where people park there until at some point in time the city exercises its easement. Vulcan is another place where, and Piraeus and Capri and some of those other streets, that those are city rights of way and people park on them anyway. So that doesn't concern me as much. I get nervous because it's right there on the lagoon, but it is a legal non-conforming lot. It's 874 feet. I think they're taking care of the mitigation issues. So I would probably vote in favor of this.
Susan, do you have any comments?
Well, I think the biggest concerns, being that it's so close to Lagoon, for me are biological, but you do have these reports about the square footage of the footprint existing, and so that I don't agree that there's no additional impact, because you know that there'll be material stored on site, and I don't think it will be inside, it'll be outside. So actually, I think there will be some amount of impact, but during construction, I think once it's finished, the runoff probably will be addressed by the 3 measures that were in the report. So, although I really don't like to see the project increasing square footage and impacting the neighborhood with the biological aspects, I think those will be temporary. So I suppose I would support it reluctantly.
Okay. My concerns have all kind of been addressed through our conversation. I also was worried about the easement and the dedication as in kind of overreach of the city. I don't think they'll ever widen the road there, but the applicant's not particularly concerned about that, and I'd rather move it through instead of getting hung up on that. stormwater, I have every faith. I mean, these things are engineered to the nth degree, and I think that's been addressed. The issue about construction access, I see Takuma had, there is a condition in there about a site or a street control plan. Ultimately, any applicant has got to navigate the logistics of how they access their project. I don't think that's a level of detail that we are here to review tonight. They have access to their building now. They have to make arrangements to do it in a legal way. There's a condition here that if they are to affect, say, the Manchester, they'll have to do a traffic control plan in order to do that. And so I think that's addressed and also beyond our scope. So I would support the project as it is, and I'd look for a motion to do so.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay? Can I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Just to add one more discussion point, right-of-way in older days was always called a parkway because people always park there,
Yeah.
and they're going to continue to park there.
Right. Thank you for that. Okay, I'll call the vote. Okay, that passes 4-0 with Commissioner Ryan absent. Okay, thank you for coming tonight. Our next item tonight is item 8B, the Planning Commission 2025-26 Work Plan Task Discussions. We have two items on this, so our first shot at this will be to discuss the work plan, specifically the Omnibus Code cleanup and the Cardiff Twin Home Lot variance items that are on our work plan. And then separately, we're going to discuss subcommittees after this. Okay? Megan, I don't believe there's much of a staff report for this, is there?
No, there isn't necessarily a staff report. I provided a small kind of PowerPoint presentation, more so just it's not really a presentation, it's just in a PowerPoint format, but because we were talking about the Cardiff Twin Home Lot Variance request as one of the items, I took some screenshots of those code sections, so I'll be placing those on the screen to help facilitate dialogue.
Okay. Do you want to do that just as part of the discussion as we're going through it?
Sure, I'll just put this up here.
And is there a public speaker on this?
Yeah,
subject?
she'd like to speak on both 8B and 8C.
Okay.
Good evening. I'm here mostly because I attended a task force meeting on the new and possible revised mitigation impact fees for the city. And during that presentation, it became abundantly clear that the consultant and even staff, and this is coming from finance, so supposedly they've coordinated with other people, were not clear on the definition of twin home versus duplex versus multifamily as it relates to what the consultant was presenting about impact fees. So someone somewhere needs to come up with a very succinct definition that is all-encompassing or very restrictive or exemplary of what twin homes are, what duplexes are, especially in light of this twin home thing you're looking at tonight, because the consultant was all about, well, it's multifamily if it's attached. Well, But we have duplexes and twin homes. No clue what a twin home was. No, I mean, it was, it is and can be an issue. I mean, is it one wall? Is it wall separated by 6 inches, by a foot, by nothing? So going forward, it's, especially with the addition of ADUs, it's not going to get easier. It's going to get worse. So before they go off and do one thing, it would be a good idea if the guys who are really in charge came up with the proper definitions. Should I go ahead to 8C? No, I'll wait. I will hold.
Hold that until we're talking about that one. Thank you for coming, and thank you for those comments. Okay, as I see this tonight, there are a couple things that we are going to be doing, right? There's some things that are proofreading, like, hey, this word is wrong here, or this is out of place. That's kind of the omnibus code cleanup of just clarifying the intent of what is currently already in the code. A second category of items will be things that we think should be changed in the code, right? And depending on which those items are, those will either elevate up to being something that has to be approved by the city council and go through a whole process of code revision, or potentially, depending on the severity of what we're suggesting, they may be an insertion to, a sentence or two into the existing code. And so I think, in my mind, there's kind of going to be two levels of types of things that we're going to talk about, and those are the two types. Tonight, our goal is to identify the items that we as a commission would like to see resolution or information about, okay? Tonight, we're not rolling up our sleeves and writing the code and crafting the language of all of these things. But tonight we are saying, we have questions about this. Can you follow up with us, to the staff with a proposed solution to this issue? Okay? We will banter about some discussion about what we think the issues are and how we prioritize those and give those to the staff. So with that, I suggest that I have a small list of items, but I think because it is a kind of a standalone item in our work plan, the Cardiff, the R15 zero lot line variance for twin homes, I think maybe we address that one first, because Megan may have a small presentation on that subject specifically. And we can maybe knock that out or address it before we move to the next one. So, Megan, with that, do you want to show us what you've found on this?
Sure. So essentially, these are the code sections that pertain to the standards as it is today. Currently, the R11 zone and RS11 zone provide a footnote that essentially, while typically there's a requirement to provide a 5-foot yard setback for both side yards, if there is a zero lot line development proposed, then a 5-foot minimum side yard setback would be required for one side, with a 0 yard setback where the two units have common walls. As I understand, the intent for bringing the R15 twin home development zoning code amendment up was because there may have been developments that have requested a variance to this requirement. Effectively, what it would look like in the zoning code is that if you look on the left-hand side of your screen where you see the highlighted R11, you'll notice there's a little 1 footnote provided there. The intent would be to provide that similar 1 footnote on the R15 zoning in terms of what that code change would look like. I have started to go through all of the past resolutions for the Planning Commission variances. I've made it up to the year about 2000 so far, and I haven't found R15 zone, basically variance requests for this type of development yet. I'm still planning on continuing the search to see what I find, and I'm happy to bring that information back to the Planning Commission once that information is available.
Okay, thank you. Is it possible to show the zoning map for Cardiff? I've been on the commission for 5 years, and I don't believe we've ever addressed, I think this is on the work plan from generations past, and I'm not sure when the last time we ever came across this issue. And in my experience, most of Cardiff or that hillside is R11, so I'm just curious where the R15 zone is.
Oops, I didn't mean to click that. So essentially, this is our zoning map. There are small areas, as I get in, you'll be able to see them, that are in this kind of dark maroon-esque color. These are the areas that are the R15 zone. And I'll zoom a little bit back out, but once you start zooming out, you kind of
Right.
see all of the colors, but I'll start here. This is R15, and this is R15.
So in my mind, particularly the zone that's right down beside the commercial core of Cardiff, yeah, and the very hilltop. But if I think about the commercial section for sure, that street is very much like twin homes that we see across Cardiff. And I would think that yeah, a zone that's intended to be more dense than the R11 seems like it should at least have the same provision for this zero setback at the center line or at the common wall on a twin home. On the eastern portion where it's showing the R15, I guess I'm a little more, I believe that's on the hillside facing east down towards the freeway. Everything gets it's a little less, the twin homes are set up on these 25 by 100 foot lots, and I think the lot sizes in that section start to get a little more irregular or larger and more apartment-like.
So is the intent to identify just the specific area over by the commercial and to exclude other R15s? Because now we're looking at, because it's part of the Cardiff specific plan?
Right. Is that R15 there?
Yes, right in here.
And help me with that zone. Is that, is that Cardiff over by the school?
Right next to Moonlight.
Just past Moonlight.
Just past Moonlight Beach.
Oh, Moonlight
And
Beach,
then you
okay,
go a
Leucadia.
little bit, yeah,
Yeah,
like here's Beach Street.
yeah. And I don't believe, are there twin homes in that area? There's one, or I don't know what it is. It looks like it's doubled.
Looks like there's a couple there, but it's hard to know if those are actually APNs or just,
Yeah.
I don't know, I don't see the little,
Yeah, they don't look like the narrow lots that you see in Cardiff, the 25-foot wide lots. Those look like wider lots.
Yeah, it seems like we need to understand what variances have been dealt with in order to understand where there was a need to.
Well, I guess in my understanding of it, in the past, a project in Cardiff would come to the commission asking for a variance in order to build essentially a twin home in an area that was full of twin homes, but because of their R15 zoning, that little cluster of about, required this variance. And I think
But it looks like the code already addresses that with the subnote.
No, because the subnote doesn't apply to the R15 zone. And I think the simplified solution is to say add footnote 1 to the R15 zone.
Right.
And it would solve that one section for Cardiff easily enough. I guess I'm expanding out, say, does it affect other areas of the city that are not necessarily Cardiff Twin Homes? And it's now going to affect an area up in Leucadia and on the eastern side of the hill in Cardiff overlooking the freeway.
So we probably need to finish the variance polls. We're at the 2020, got 25 more years to go to see if there's additional variances that have been requested. But it would make a big change in some of those other larger lots if all of a sudden you're taking a 2-acre lot and allowing a 0 lot line.
Yeah, I'm not sure that the polling or referring all the old, I think the variances, I guess would be confirmed, but I don't know that we necessarily have to just go with what has been done by variance, right? I mean, other than it was frequent enough that someone in the past put it onto our work plan.
Right.
And we could make a decision to say, we tend to support the idea of a 0 setback on a twin home. Right. And I guess maybe it would be enough direction to staff to say, we are in support of expanding footnote 1 to include the R15, but we have some concern about how it might apply in Leucadia and the eastern side,
I don't
eastern
see
hillside.
how it would, what would it matter jurisdictionally where in the city it was? If they're converting to a twin home, there is no separation.
Yeah, I think,
So what does that matter? If they're able to convert to a twin home on 2 lots,
Under the existing
joining 2
zoning.
lots into one or on 1 lot, there is no separation.
yeah. Would the same philosophy hold if someone bought 2 adjacent lots that were both 50 by 100, or like over in Leucadia where the lot sizes are not 25 feet wide, but they're more standardized to 50 or 60 feet wide? Could you do a twin home essentially that's double the width of, say, what they do in Cardiff? And Brent, I agree with you. It makes no
Right,
difference
'cause
to me whether it's
So in
Cardiff or
Cardiff-
Leucadia.
In Cardiff, they're joining 2 lots.
Well, they're
So
under.
you're proposing that someone would suggest that without joining 2 lots, they built a 0 lot line along 2 adjoining properties.
Well, that's essentially what Cardiff is 2 adjoining properties.
But in Cardiff, it's typical for them to join into create 1 property with it.
No,
there's no merger.
they maintain the property line down the middle,
Okay.
even though the buildings are literally within inches of each other there. And I think part of why I think it might be unique to Cardiff is that they have the
Narrow lots.
25-foot wide lots,
yeah.
where in Leucadia, just looking at that map, it looked like those were 50 or 60-foot wide lots. And
Okay.
maybe the same kind of hardship isn't there as far as being constrained by the lot width. But I would agree, if it's a multifamily zone, maybe they should just have that benefit.
Well, then you look at like, okay, why, for instance, if you stop right there, Megan, and you see the words that say, right there in the middle, R15, right? Right there in the maroon area. But then just to the west of it, across the alley, is R11. So why would they begin to get lot splits on that side of the street, of the alley, but not the west side of the alley? Now, that kind of belies the underlying zoning issue. I get it. I'm just saying, like, wait, the guy across the street from me is R15, and he can do the 0 lot line. I'm R11. I guess under the R11 variant, you can do it too, right? So I guess it's rhetorical. Okay.
In theory, the R11 is a less dense zone than the R15. It seems like if you're allowed this 0 lot line in R11,
You should be allowed.
you should be allowed it in a more dense zone, right? The
Yeah.
zoning is anticipating a denser development
Yeah.
pattern
And
there.
I would accept that consistent across the city, not,
Yes.
but wait a minute, 1 part's in Leucadia, 1 part's
Yeah.
in Cardiff.
And I would agree with you. Are we saying that the lot size doesn't really matter to us in how you implement? I mean, right now, the footnote doesn't really say anything about the
It could
lot
be-
size. And in theory, someone in Lucadia could have applied it to one of these lots that are not 25 feet wide.
Yeah, the underlying, I guess we're saying is the underlying zoning is the defining
Yeah,
issue. Then it
that's the
should be,
issue.
then it could be, all we're doing is making it consistent. To your point, this is a higher density location or a higher density R15 zone. They should have the same benefits as an R11. Yes, the R, it may have been born out of the Cardiff scenario, but to your point, is it applicable across the city? And it appears to be, it should be.
These zones, they look in, they're very similar areas
Right.
to each other. So I'm very, it seems logical to be in favor of supporting a footnote for the R15
Okay,
that is identical to the R11.
okay. Susan, do you have thoughts on this?
Well, it seems like we have two issues. One is that they should be allowed to have the zero lot line without a variance. And the other one is, are we going to look at the lot width as a factor?
Right.
So the footnote could say lots less than 50 feet can have this zero interior. So
I agree that, I guess I was thinking about lot width as being a factor in this, but if I look and say the current zone does not make the lot width a factor, and it is applied in other parts of town that are not 25 feet wide.
that's because right now it is only applying to one zone.
No, the R11 zone applies in Lucadia as well as Cardiff.
Right, it's
It
consistent.
only applies to R11, one type of zone,
Yeah.
is what I'm
Yes,
meaning.
but I'm addressing your lot width comment. Irregardless of lot width, it applies to anything in the R11 zone.
Okay,
Hey, Megan.
So-
Oh, sorry.
are we kind of reaching consensus?
I think so, and I think maybe we're not necessarily going to vote each of these items, but
Right,
just say, hey, a straw poll, or there's a general consensus, you're hearing the discussion, you could go away and come back with what you think is addressing
Yeah, can we
what you
just-
heard from us.
Can we get clarification on that? Is it, we're making a recommendation, we're not voting
And
on it?
I think the bottom line
And
for
that-
us as a commission is that we don't want to deprive anybody of something else that somebody else gets to enjoy. So if we're allowing that zero lot line in Cardiff, it should also be allowed citywide.
Okay.
So
Brent, to
so
your
the-
point, I think staff is going to get a list of things from us tonight. And I think when they come back, they may say, listen, 3 of these items are just purely code cleanup, and we can make those adjustments in the code ministerially. Some number of these may elevate to say, this is going to take approval by the city council to actually authorize this change. And I think depending on what the issue is that we're discussing, there might be a different answer as far as what the next process is.
So we're making a recommendation
Yes,
to the planning department
yes,
for changes to the code.
Yes.
And we'll get feedback on that.
yes.
Got
Just because we made the recommendation doesn't mean that they immediately can or will
Exactly.
implement it.
Exactly.
Okay.
Thank you.
There was a project we just approved in Lucadia. There were some concerns. It was 2 stories. It was over the Hagos Pizza. It was over the Hagos Tacos, and they were putting condos on top of an existing commercial development and leaving the parking in the back. I'm thinking out loud. Did that project have a setback? Because we're looking at an R15. Was there a setback requirement for that if this would be applied? Do you remember that?
The difference, though, Bob,
Yeah.
if
That's different.
Yeah, in a twin home, those are fee simple lots. You
Right.
own the land, you own the building above it.
Right.
In that project, you are a condominium. You own the air, like you have.
You own your little square.
You own your cubicle or square within the overall building, but the
Right.
building itself sits on one lot.
Yeah, it was a mixed use.
Right.
Right, but.
Not a twin home.
Not, okay, so just clarifying this, as it relates to residential, it doesn't apply to a mixed use. You can't do a zero lot line for a mixed use project in an R15 zone, but only for a twin home, which the constituents have said, is it a twin home, is it a multifamily? And that's another conversation. But I'm just trying to bring up the example of how a zero lot line would have applied on that one recently approved project. And you're saying
Zoned
that
the same.
it wouldn't.
It's not zoned the same.
it's not zoned the same?
I can't imagine it's mixed
Well-
use along that corridor.
It's on a commercial zone.
It's a commercial zone.
Commercial zone. So
Yeah.
it wasn't the R15s, it was.
I don't think it was.
Okay, so that's,
Yeah, I don't
got it.
think so either.
Okay. I think we're in general favor of trying to apply this. Staff will come back and tell us that they can or can't do it, what the implications of that might be. If we could, in this table, this is purely like omnibus code cleanup at this point, my next comment. Can we look at the R15 development regulations, which I think you're printing in your thing there? Item H refers to the side yard setback. For the R15 zone, where it will say H, side yard setback, and then it says street side. And I think that's confusing, because this is not a street side, 2 lines down.
It's G, the interior one.
Yes. So, so what is the difference between I and J? I and J both say street side yard setback, and then one's for substandard and one's for, so what is H? It's intended to be the interior side yard for a substandard lot, but it references the street side, which is erroneous.
I'll make a note of that and
Yeah.
maybe, that I do a little
I
research.
think that's just a
Okay.
cleanup, but you can come
Great.
back to it or tell me why it's,
That's a good one, you get points for that.
oh, I got more. Could we go to the height diagram in chapter 30 as well?
Yes. Let me just make a.
Yeah, so I have, starting here at 6A, I have several issues with this section. One is that this goes 6A, and then it gives you 3 bullet points. And if you scroll to the next page, it starts with an asterisk. The next text starts with an asterisk, which doesn't seem to fit within the bullet point or the outline format. And then it goes to lowercase I, and it feels like what determines if it's being a bullet point or it's a lowercase I, or if it's an asterisk or what have you. And I just feel like that just clerically or graphically is off. But my real issue is if you scroll just a little bit further to the next diagram right there, all of these numbers are shifted and offset from what they intend to dimension. So if you look directly in the middle, that says PL. It's labeling something as a property line in the middle of the building, but the property line, I think in this diagram, is about an inch to the right, just below the dimension that says 22 feet. And then 22 feet doesn't seem to really align with whatever dimension it's meant to dimension. On the far left, there's a 22 feet, but it looks like it's not on that dimension. And then the dimension above it is blank, except for it says 4 feet at the far, far right of the drawing. I think that's meant to be at the far left of the drawing. So I just think this whole diagram could be cleaned up and not change the meaning of anything other than to make it clear. I also wonder if it wouldn't be, like this diagram does not have a label. It's not called Figure 1 or Figure 6 or Table 2 diagram something. It's just plopped in the middle of the text field. And if you're trying to tell someone what drawing you're referring them to, it feels like if this and the two above it, all dealing with height, were labeled, it might clarify some items.
So the slope diagram regarding height
Yes,
needs to be cleaned up.
yes.
Okay.
I don't know. It just seems easy to do and not change anything. It's not the.
But a clear
content.
definition of what the item is going to help when it comes back
Yeah. Right.
to jog all of our memories.
Yes. On a bigger note on height, which maybe requires more discussion and maybe require input from attorneys and everything, I universally hear from every architect I talk to how much they loathe the way Encinitas calculates height. We calculate height at the middle of the building to some adjacent perimeter around the footprint of the building. And it's never like, do you go to the uphill side? Or, like if you were dead center in the building, do you go to the uphill side or the downhill side? Do you go to the left side or the south or north side? The code is written as if there's assumption that every lot is square or rectangular, flat, and every roof, but if you built a square building and with a pyramidal roof, you could not apply our height policy to it.
But I really think one of the reasons is that we don't have a view policy. And so instead, what they did is they made this really tricky way of calculating height so that you don't block people's view.
I think to that point, that's why we have a 22-foot height limit and a 26-foot height. I mean, there is a reason our height limit is relatively low. Nobody can consistently calculate the height, and it depends on which planner you get at the city will interpret it slightly different. So there's a
But the
repeated
problem
difficulty.
is, if you have a steep slope and you build on that, your height measured from grade is different. And so because of the low height, instead they went to the crown of the road, right? But it's all related, all of this is related to blocking view and not blocking the view.
I don't think they're necessarily related to the view blockage. You could avoid view blockage and have a simpler way of measuring height. Most, or a lot of other jurisdictions just copy the ground plane up the 26 feet or 22 feet, and that's your height limit.
Would you like to review the height code?
Yes, so that's my recommendation, is that we review the height code.
So perhaps we'll request to have the code brought back to us,
Yes.
and then we'll look
I
at it.
think we can
We'll look at
review
and
it.
move forward from
However, I
there.
really think the view is what's important to people that live here. And Encinitas has a lot of hills.
I'm not changing the height at
No.
all, Susan. I'm just changing the way we measure it so that it's a consistent way for every project.
Yeah, this came up.
Well, we do have consistent height. We have 22 feet or 30 feet.
I'm not asking to change the dimension. I'm asking the way, how do you measure 22 feet? Because depending on which planner you get, it's interpreted slightly differently every time.
And this goes to a couple of the things we
To
had
be
in Cardiff,
careful.
because the stairs kind of went up, and then there was a twin home,
Yeah,
and the
up and
stairs
down.
up and down, and they were measuring from top of the stairs. I'm like, well, wait, that's not the ground. I obviously not an architect, but it kind of frosted me a little bit that the building actually ended up being higher because of to your point, Steve, where the measurement took off, what the takeoff point was. And I think that's what you're asking, right? Trying to look at the code and find out where these takeoff points are to, still 22 feet, but from where, right? Is
Yeah,
that-
that's
Things like that.
in there, and
Got
that's
it.
part of it.
I would imagine we'd find some variation, and the calculation a time or two as we move forward, but I certainly don't think we should have a universal feeling of frustration when calculating the height code.
Along that same line, there were some conversations early on, I joined a couple years back, on slope.
Yes.
Is that something that we discuss and act to discuss more at this point? Because there was a house that was in Leucadia, and anyway, that was,
I think that is an important one to address.
okay.
Someone gave us as commissioners a binder on his project. That was why he was having so much trouble.
Right.
That binder has sat on my desk at work
Okay.
for 3 years now, and I forgot to grab it on my way here. But
Okay.
I don't know that I'm ready or prepared to describe
I'm not either. I'm just putting it out
succinctly
in
what
the
the
ethos.
issue was, but
Yeah,
I do
yeah.
think maybe as we come back to this again, we might have another crack at that.
Okay,
including-
I'm probably just throwing it out there, not being prepared, but hoping that we could have further discussions. And slope measurement was one that's come up multiple times in different parts of the city because it does this.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, I'm just checking off the ones I thought. Light wells seem to be a real issue with, again, the peanut gallery that I get talked to by other architects. We used to be able to build a basement, put a window in it, and have a light well that might be 6 feet wide or some dimension, size to the window. I think current policy, planning is that the light well is limited to 3 by 3. And that hasn't been that way for, as one architect tells me, 40 years that he's been doing buildings. So anyway, I think there's a recent change in policy, and this doesn't come into the code, but there's somewhere a policy statement or within the planning department, I think, should be looked at. And maybe that's broadening code cleanup, but if there is a policy, I think we should understand why light wells are being limited to only 3 by 3 instead of, I have projects that are both much wider than 3 by 3, and I've had projects that are limited to 3 by 3. And so there's not there is a policy in place now that's not consistent with how it's always been done before, say, last year or 2 years ago.
A new policy that went into effect, do you think?
New interpretation, something.
Okay.
So I guess my
Take a look at
my
that.
ask would be, is there a written policy outlining this, and how did it come to be different than what it has been, say, 5 years ago, 2 years, 3 years ago?
Okay?
Put it on the list.
Yep.
What else do you guys have?
Well,
You guys.
oh my gosh.
You don't read the
I don't
code?
know if these are, do I read the code? Not,
You're long enough.
as a layperson, no. Not as well as others, including yourself. But there are some general things that, I don't know if this is code cleanup or specific to this, but the issue with the selling of the alcohol at the 7-Eleven in that code, the CVV1 exemption that we had that was not controversial, but warranted a lot of discussion. There was an exemption that we denied a variance on or denied the request on, and I don't know if that's something that is a code cleanup, but
I don't think it is. My interpretation or my understanding of that condition is that a past city staff or planning commission allowed some exception that was basically unsupported, or they were referencing a CVS down the street.
They were,
that-
yeah,
that
Rite Aid.
limited, considered alcohol sales an accessory use. And that's, I think, a legally fragile argument to make.
Probably before CVS became a place to even,
So
alcohol.
I don't
Yeah,
think
well,
that
popular place.
justified continuing a bad policy.
Right.
And I think when the action we took on that whatever project we were looking at was the right decision, but doesn't merit changing the code.
No, I don't think it merits changing the code. I just wasn't sure if that was something that we needed to look at, because the it was the Rite Aid at Encinitas and Manchester, or Rancho Santa Fe Road, whatever the intersection is. I should know it, but it changes its name there. And they made it a point as part of their business model to sell alcohol, whereas a 7-Eleven that was in Village Park had never had the ability to sell alcohol, but wanted to. But then there was this interpretation of and they basically said, well, they did it. You guys set policy. I should be able to do it.
Would you like to look at the code for that?
Yeah, so I just want to look at the, I'm sorry.
Let's put it on the-
That
let's
was
look
one
at
that
the
was,
code.
let's just look at the code, make sure there's not any gaps. So that was just what I wanted to
So
revisit.
it's the alcohol use.
In a CVC code
Yeah.
that came up once. Now, it might not warrant a lot of time.
It's actually both.
Well,
They go together, those two,
Those two.
right? Yeah, they go together. Or
Yeah.
they're similar. We should look at both of them at the same time, maybe.
I think so, just making sure if there's not a problem, then there's not a problem. But it's something that came
That
up.
same location had been turned down previously for the same exact request. But I
just
have a
look at the
different
co-
issue that I think is much bigger, which is how we grandfather in all of this nonconformity. To me, huge code cleanup issue would be to say, couple of things about that. First of all, most jurisdictions, that just doesn't happen. They don't say, oh, you had that before we incorporated, and so if you tear it down to the ground, we're going to let you build it right back just as non-conforming as it was before. I don't know any jurisdictions that allow that. I mean, I've drawn plans in probably more than 50 jurisdictions in my life, and I've never encountered that. And so when I came here, and that was the policy, I was blown away.
Is your objection that there is that they allow for nonconformities, or that they're allowed to rebuild a nonconformity?
I think two things about it. If you're building more than half brand new, you should fall under everything for new construction. And for some things, the state says that already. But for us, we let them rebuild stuff with inadequate setback, a greater height, all kinds of things. Whatever they had before, they get to keep doing it perpetually. And to me, that means that our city, with an increasing density that we have, with all of the mandates for affordable that are causing upzoning and greater density, if we're keeping all of this nonconformity at the same time, we're covering up a lot of our open space that we don't have to. We wouldn't have to if we went with current code, rather than saying, oh, you had a 5-foot setback before, but now it's supposed to be 20, you can keep your 5-foot setback. I don't think that's smart for our city's future. I think that's a really big code cleanup. And I also think, at the same time,
Yeah, some of these
fees
things
that are collected by other jurisdictions, when something is torn down and rebuilt, they collect fees for it being new if it's 50% or more. When we don't call it new.
I do agree that those are, sometimes unfortunate issues that do occur within the process and do need to be addressed. But I'm finding that more of a complaint or problem than it is a clarification of the language or of the rule. And then, so I wasn't anticipating going down a debate alley, and more of a clarification of what is stated and what it means, or how it's understood or how it's used.
Versus suggested changes. So we're looking about
Exactly.
where the conflicts, let's try to identify some perceived conflicts.
Thank you. Yeah, just, yeah.
And then if, hey, I want to change
That's
the code.
That's a cleanup, not a change.
That's a cleanup.
Not a, like,
That's
we
right.
need
It's
to
not new.
redo, yes.
Is that the new?
My understanding of our process.
Yeah, well, I would think that the omnibudsman component is where I would raise my hand and say, I want to change, I think we should change the CPP rule, or I think we should look at, compared to 5 other cities, our CPP program is not consistent. So that's in the suggestion mode, or is that not part of our work plan?
I have it on my list here.
Yeah, yeah.
CPP, but it's a good, I mean, open to the discussion.
Is that's a separate?
Yeah, I think it's
It's a separate agenda item, or I'm sorry, we're going to group CPP into this?
no, I wasn't sure when, to
wasn't
your
sure.
point, I was answering your question regarding, I understand the light well, the height measurement, those are kind of code cleanup issues that Steve has specific knowledge of, right?
Sure.
And height measurements, those kind of conflicts. The other ones, such as Susan's suggestion, or, hey, the CPP, I want to look at that, or, hey, I want to look at, dark skies, or those, well, that's not a different one, but you know what I mean? I wrote down like the wings that extend, or the CVCC alcohol sales, that's kind of a bucket over here. The CPP is a bucket over here, is it not?
Well,
I'm trying to walk through, because I don't know if I have specific
I see
comments like
a
that.
distinction. I'm not sure
Okay.
if it's, I don't know. I mean, I get that the CPP, maybe nonconformities is a bigger issue that may require greater discussion. Some of them I wouldn't support. Like, I wouldn't want to say, oh, go work on this because it doesn't reflect what I'd like it to happen. But maybe that takes more discussion, more debate on those topics that are big changes to those are not tweaks to the code. They are take whole sections out, replace whole sections, right?
Potentially, yes.
Yeah.
Potentially, sure. So,
Can we just to get Megan's opinion on it, if is a discussion about, the CPP, or discussions about removing nonconforming language in the code, do you think those elevate beyond the idea of code cleanup?
I think some of these items that were listed may go beyond the scope of code cleanup, but I'm happy to notate today the items that have been brought up, and then I can re-look at them internally with staff to determine what's the actual scope that would be required for making some of these changes, or what would be the perceived, or basically what I would understand the scope may be. And then I can come back and provide sort of an update. Hey, based off of these items, it looks like it will take X amount of time, or potentially it would require a consultant to be able to provide comment on something. So the intent for me is to just receive your comments today of anything that you determine to be omnibus code cleanup, which typically I look at as more so the items you mentioned earlier related to the diagram looks off. That to me seems like code cleanup. Looking at the table, some of the language is a little bit funky. Maybe we need to take a word out. That's code cleanup. When we start analyzing, altering some of the development standards, that to me is more significant than code cleanup. So that's kind of where the nuance is. What's easily done sort of from a changing typos perspective versus what's actually substantially changing any potential development standards or could have a significant impact on development.
So let's take it at that and say, if we choose to go to these discussions at a future meeting, Megan is kind of forewarned, and she may be able to say, hey, I looked into that issue, and there's a vast legal issue for you. Like, she can.
That's a big one.
That's a big one. Don't discuss it without council approval.
So you're
I'm suggesting
putting it on the list.
We take, Megan has heard a discussion about nonconformity.
So it's on the list.
And CPP, but we're not going to discuss them tonight about
No.
the merits of them,
Sure.
other than to hear at a future date whether those are even changeable.
About the 3-by-3 window, I actually kind of have a feeling I know why they have that rule, and I believe it was probably because they don't want a sleeping room in a basement. And so you have to have an egress window, and so that window would be too small for egress. and I'm pretty sure that's where they came up with it. Why they did it, I wasn't here when they had that discussion, I don't know. But I think that's the reason it exists.
Okay. I've kind of exhausted my list of items. Are there any others that we haven't touched on as a group?
On the CPP specifically, I mean, if she's looking for a note, the reason I was going to bring it up was, one, the timeline. I keep bringing up the fact that, like, for instance, this evening's presentation, the CPP was 2 years ago. That seems like a long time. And especially we've seen projects come before us that there's material changes to the design, and they say, well, I had a CPP 2 years ago, and I'm like, well, but you've got a different project now. So maybe it's a timeline of the date, or maybe it's if there's a definition of material that changes. So that's one of the things, like, has the neighborhood even seen the new version? And it's usually been things like Quail Gardens or Sage Canyon. It's like, well, I did a CPP 2 years ago. I'm like, well, that was 3 stories, and now you're at 7, so I think you should do it again. That's one. Number 2 would be the distance. And it's easily, for me, I'm happy to scan 5 different cities in AI and figure out what the distance is. Sometimes I think that 500 feet is not enough. In terms of transparency, I'd like to look at 750 or 1,000 feet for people to be noticed. Because one person came back and said, oh, I got like a 20% renewal because half the houses around them were Airbnbs and people didn't live in them. So I'm like, well, but the neighborhood is bigger than just the adjacent property. So I agree, 1,000 might be not, and might be no city in the state that does 1,000, and that's fine too. I was just thinking that 500 seems a little light based on some of the responses. So that was an easy one that I can certainly research. And
I don't think, I mean, so I think,
Yeah,
thank
so
you.
that was one.
That's good comment. She's heard those.
She's heard that. Okay.
Okay.
And then on, this is a code cleanup to me, submittals, I don't know if this is code, but submittals to Planning Commission the day of the commission. I don't know what the law is, but I find it very frustrating to represent constituencies.
Can you define submittals of what type?
Correspondence, letters,
So day of correspondence.
date of, I mean, I'm driving down the freeway at 4:30 to get
I
here,
get it.
and 100 pages drop. And I can't take into consideration the merits of the 100 pages because it came 45 minutes before the meeting. So I want to understand if there's other cities that say it's 24 hours ahead of time. And I'm doing this so that I can properly respond to constituents who have a concern. I can't do that as I'm driving down the freeway rushing to get to a planning commission meeting and they drop 100 pages. So I'd like to understand if we can move the submission timeline to a fixed date or fixed time, X number of hours beforehand.
I like that as well. That's been a frustration.
So let's take a look at the language.
Yes. So
Thank
that's,
you.
that's
I
a,
thought
a
the
look at
cutoff
language.
was 3 p.m.
Even 3 p.m. is like,
I mean, they can send
Can
after
we take a
that,
look at the language?
yeah. So Megan.
but it doesn't go on
Megan will look at
record.
the language and
And bring it back to us.
bring back recommendations of what she can
Yeah.
and
Or
can't
so
do.
are we going to like maybe just identify something, a priority or of any sort here? So that like.
No, as far as a rank order of what we've talked
I
about.
was thinking timeline, not of importance.
As in, please come back to us by next time with this item and come back with the next. I'd like to give Megan the ability
Just to
to
look over.
manage her staff and schedules and the agendas that we have and
Okay, so
and fit
if
this
it
in.
appears on our agenda, then we'll
Yeah.
address it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
all right, one more. In the code, as you're walking, there's setbacks of 5 feet to walk between 2 buildings. This has come up a few times, side yard setbacks. But yet, there's extensions that go into that setback.
Projections.
Projections, thank you. I just would like to know if other cities, it seems to me like, wait, you can't build in that setback area because maybe you'll bump your head or the fireman's going to run by and hit his head because there's an extension. If there's a setback, there's a setback. Why does an extension become allowed? It's living space. So that's come into calculations on FAR, it's come into calculations for design. So
I will just add to it, and I'm
Please.
happy just to put it on the list. That's very consistent with every jurisdiction I work in. They all have projections that are allowed, and Encinitas does a fairly comprehensive, of identifying
okay, that's
height
might be,
and width.
then that's my naivete, not knowing that other cities do it. I just was wrestling with, we have a setback, but yet people get to extend into the setback. And I'm like, well, then why even have a setback? So, but if that's consistent with 9 out of 10 cities, well, then I understand that too.
So the item on the agenda will essentially say Planning Commission let's, work plan discussion regarding omnibus code cleanup, and then the item.
Yeah,
The item that we're addressing, or the multiple of items we're addressing for that,
correct.
okay.
Right. To that point, is it a continuance of this meeting, or do we just finish this meeting and you'll agenda a new time and place?
Yeah, I would separately agendize this item at a future meeting.
Right. But it's not this item.
No, it'd be titled Work Plan, 25, 26, Omnibus Code
Cleanup and then-
Task
and then
Discussion or something like that.
Discussion, and then you'll list out those items we're going to be discussing.
Because Chris might
Sounds
have
good.
some things to
Thank
say
you.
too.
Sure.
So we want to make sure that I get something will drop off, something will add on, but at least we're moving forward. But I want to give Chris a chance to, maybe she's got 5 or 6 things that she wants. So it's not finite to tonight.
Oh, the list? Oh, definitely not.
Okay, that's good.
Definitely not. At each time, we can add to the list, remove from the list. I'm sure we will be knocking some off, or maybe she'll have something that will bring it back again, and we'll continue on.
All right, that's my understanding. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, I feel like we've squeezed the lemon juice out of this one.
No, I appreciate it.
Whatever okay. So with that, I will move on to our next item, 8C, Planning Commission Work Plan Subcommittees. Again, I don't think there's a staff report on this. Last time we were here, we have a public speaker, and I appreciate your patience and sticking around for this.
Let me go get the mayor, he can explain the twin lot situation. Right there.
I don't think so.
Because I'm sure you could. Preservation of open space. My concern or confusion is that, my understanding is that we have already done surveys and had meetings and are in the process of doing a big city resource, community resource, element update plan study that includes open space as part of that. And that open space is also part of our parks and recreation, and I think it's called open space plan that was done in 2016. And there's also another one that includes open space. So I just hate for you to be creating more work for something that's already going on at the staff. Mr. Jednak, I believe, is doing the current study. So I'm not sure it's time for you to do this, to go and ask them to do stuff when they're already doing stuff with open space, would be my comment. Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate those comments. With that, I'm going to echo what we just heard. I think there are other commissions and groups that look at Parks and Rec and open space, and this was an item that was added to our list by the City Council. I don't know that we have a lot of background about why or what they hope for us to do about this. Is this driving around town identifying lots for future purchase, or I don't know. I struggle with identifying this as an actionable item by our group, but I understand that people are interested in this subject. But I would agree with the speaker that it seems like there are other groups within the city that are doing this work or that's more in their wheelhouse. Susan?
I would be guessing that it's because of all of the development that has been happening and the upzoning has been happening. Properties that were R2 suddenly R30, which means we lose a lot of open space. It's private land, but it was formerly in a zone that left a great deal of open space. It couldn't be developed on every inch because you could only have 2 dwellings on an R2. And so land that was perhaps agricultural that became upzoned to R30 residential definitely changes from open space. You can now develop all kinds of stuff on it, a lot of hardcover. So I think the concern, our town only has about 1/100th of the land, of the city-owned land, is open space. It's a very small percentage, if you think about floor area ratio and things like that. So I think what we want to look at, things like our commercial that only has, 5% open space requirement, or 15% landscaping. Open space could be developed in some measure because there's hardscape on some of that. But we also would want to define open space. Is it something that sequesters carbon? Is it organic, green? Or is it some kind of paving? Is it permeable? Is it non-permeable? So I think that open space, we should first start by looking at definition of what is there, in terms of how does our code define open space? And then look at how much we have left, which I believe, from my review of it, is 1/100th of our land, 0.01%. So, and then from there, consider that if we are having to preserve that open space, I think in the wild areas, at the edges, the periphery, definitely that's where wildlife exists. And I took a picture a couple days ago of a red-tailed hawk, and it was at the Smart and Final parking lot on a post. I had never, in all the time I've lived in Encinitas, seen a hawk in a commercial parking lot at that low altitude. And I was shocked, but I had to ask myself, that's directly across from Quail Gardens almost, where there's an awful lot of development happening. And I had to ask myself, did it lose its nesting area? I don't know. Who knows? But I think that when we look at all of the development, we have to look at preservation of our open space as a very high priority, because if we don't, we're losing not just open space for recreation and for enjoyment and for the aesthetics of our town. We're losing carbon sequestration, we're losing wildlife habitat and pollinators and so much more. Filtration from the root systems in the ground that absorbs some of that runoff is really important for our drainage to not be a mess. So I think it's a pretty big deal, and I think these are things probably on the mind of our council. I hope they'd be on their mind, actually.
Okay, Bob?
Yeah, I think you're right. I'd like some direction from City Council in terms of what their definition of our work plan is on open space. I agree with Susan, open space is important. Other cities like Carlsbad actually have a zoning code that says open space. So if that's something that the city wants us to look at in maybe recommend refining our open space code, I'm happy to look at that and compare that to other cities in terms of how zoning is applicable. It could be applicable from a environmental trust standpoint, so that in city mitigation can take place in an open space in Encinitas rather than mitigating in another city or another state, which is historically how it gets done. So I'd love some direction from the city council about, is it our code issue with open space, which I'm happy to work on and compare that to other cities in terms of a subcommittee and comparing that and taking some of the burden off of staff. So if it's something like that, I'm happy to work on it. Also, at the same time, I don't think I'm driving around the city looking at open space and trying to apply a code to it. I just want to make sure that if we have a code, it's consistent with others. And if the city council wants to apply an open space zoning to somebody who requests it, then that there's guidelines associated with that.
Okay. Brent?
I mean, yeah, definitely agree. I would be looking for some guidance, just based on the notes in our flow chart. In the past, it looked like they were looking for ways for implementing Resolution 2022-04, and it sounds like maybe that is being undertaken by some other groups and departments. So I wouldn't really, I wouldn't know where to go in other than to, I would, I guess, review the language on that resolution and then go from there. Yeah, it doesn't seem like it's a hugely important for us to dive into the deep end of that particular subject in a way that we would know what the outcome how it would affect anyone necessarily.
Well, if it's a coordination between the various organizations and we go to various meetings, we could come back with a subcommittee report from, this is what the Parks and Rec Department said, this is what, we've gone to urban forest meetings and things like that and come back and made reports back. So if it's a question of who's doing it within the city, we can create an org chart, come back and present that and say, okay, XYZ is doing this is what the status is, this is the code status. You know, we can update things. But again, a lot of that just depends on what the city's intent is. I don't want to go down a path. I'm happy to do the subcommittee work, but if the city council doesn't have direction, it's kind of hard to go somewhere. I knew what affordability and the affordable housing was. I know what that goal was.
Right, right. My only hesitation is that people put their hard work and good effort into something that is not received or appreciated or is off mark, and ultimately it's got to come back to, say, the five of us, and it needs to represent, does need to represent our collective thinking on something. And so I think having some clear direction, at least from even our own group, about what type of things we're interested in
Well, I think
would be important.
subcommittee work needs to come back here first.
Of course.
Before it
Right,
is approved to move on.
right.
How about one of us meet with the representatives of the city council and come back with a report or come back with a discussion that can be shared in terms of or do we need to take direction from the entire council on something that we think is a little vague? How does that work? Is one meeting come back with an interpretation from one person on the council a bad idea?
Or the subcommittee if it's more than one.
Yeah, I think it would be
You could do two. You could do one. You could do two.
2 council members.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
could.
yeah. I think that would be appropriate to say, what was their memory of this thing? What is it that they, I guess there's a video where we go back and watch, but I was there and I feel like it was somewhat vague and not very clear.
Agreed.
What they were doing.
Even simpler, we do have Megan, and she can ask them for that clarification, and it can be sent to everyone so that we know.
Okay. I do.
It kind of cuts to the chase.
So council and/or Megan, what's the best way to get clarity on the situation in your opinions?
I can start by at least putting an email together and asking for clarity from the director of the department on what would be the next best steps forward from his perspective as well. And then we could consult with the city manager related to what's the best method of communication. And I'm happy to provide that update at the next meeting and any clarification that I receive related to this topic.
That sounds great. We'll go from there.
That's
Yeah.
a good resolution, thank you. All right, I think sorry, dark skies, didn't mean to cut that short. Okay, dark skies is on our list. Bob, you had expressed interest in it last time?
Yeah, it's on our work plan, and I think there's a dark skies ordinance for Liebenheim, but multiple people come with developments, and people, I think, across all the communities within Encinitas are concerned about dark skies. So I'm happy to investigate our city policy as compared to others in the surrounding neighborhood, what's Poway or Ramona, and just come back with, a chart basically saying, this is how various other cities do it, and this is our current code. And if the city council wants to take up that code should be adopted throughout the city of Encinitas and maybe not just to Liebenheim, well, then that's great. But at least I can identify other locations within the greater San Diego community that have these ordinances for people to review.
But I think our dark skies is beyond just Liebenheim. I think it also is by the lagoons because of the natural habitat.
I'll clear that up.
Yeah. That
Yeah.
might be a nice way of
Yeah.
summarizing it for us so we understand what its current condition is and what other people are doing.
That was my
with
goal.
regard to this.
I'm happy to, if you guys will allow a subcommittee, I can certainly work on that and
Okay.
come back with some ideas.
So is there any other interest in working on a dark skies subcommittee? Okay.
Subcommittee one.
I would make a motion that we create a subcommittee that Bob will lead to review
I'll
dark skies.
wrangle some cats, but I'll figure it out.
Thank you, Bob.
Thanks, guys. Happy to.
Okay. All right. That covers the agenda item for that. I'll move on to future agenda items added by planning commissioners. Seeing none. Planning commission reports.
And yet, quick, we have to get it over with before someone, have we closed public comment already?
We did as soon as that door
No,
opened.
no more pink slips. I'm nothing, no futures. Oh,
Yeah. I don't think we need you.
we're good, thank you.
I mean, we need you, but not tonight.
Not tonight. Go home.
Good night.
All right.
Thanks, Bruce.
Thank you. Okay, planning commission reports.
I did. No, I don't think we have any. I don't have one.
Okay.
Nothing to report.
Secretary reports.
None.
Okay. With that, we'll adjourn to the next regular planning commission meeting. Oh,
Wait, I saw something come through about a joint meeting on the 11th of December. Did everybody get that? I don't know if this is the right time to say anything.
I don't
but-
know if is that an agenda item now, or it was checking for availability?
11th.
For a special meeting on the December 11th, potentially. Essentially, we're looking to figure out when to bring the mature tree ordinance. So we're still looking at a date that's not finalized yet, because it looks like actually that's the date where the Environmental Commission has a meeting, so that I don't think the 11th would work. So staff will be reaching out to you shortly to try and figure out when we could potentially see that ordinance.
Okay, thank you. With that, I'm going to adjourn the meeting till our next regular meeting on November 20th.